Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin and welcome to this week's video. Today's video is a summary of my two most recent podcast episodes I did, episode 310 and 311, that were titled How I Chose My Employer, and it was part 1 and part 2. What I did was interviewed 8 recent graduates and wanted to find out how they chose their employer heading into 2024. I asked a number of simple questions, and some of their responses, some of them didn't surprise me, it's what I expected. And some of the responses did surprise me. So the first question I asked was, where did they look for job opportunities? Now, what came out from nearly all of them was Seek was one place, LinkedIn was another, the APOD website. They also went to various Facebook groups to see what was being advertised there. And also they spoke to university lecturers and got recommendations from them. That was probably a bit lower down the rung. But what was important, or what surprised me, was a few of them said that they had been looking at job opportunities way before they ever got to their final year. And I think this is really important, that if you're advertising every year to replace podiatrists that are constantly leaving your business, the students are noticing this. And this can sometimes be a bit of a concern for them when they're actually looking for a job for themselves. They start wondering, why are you always replacing team members? But anyway, most of them, after they identified a few positions that they thought, well, this sounds interesting, immediately they went to your website and then they went to your social media pages, especially Instagram, to see if what was in the ad was depicted in your website and also what you were displaying on Instagram. I thought that was really, really important. The second question that I asked was there anything in the ad that immediately put them off? Was it a red flag that sort of had them concerned? This surprised me. When some of the new graduates said if the salaries were too high, they thought there has to be a catch. Why are they offering so much money for a new graduate? Are they desperate? Why are they desperate? So that was actually a red flag. Some were put off because they were told that there was commissions involved. There was a base salary and then commissions. That's how they were going to earn the money. Most of them just wanted to know what they were going to get paid when they graduated. Some didn't want to work solo. That was a red flag. So if they're told, oh, you'll be working by yourself in certain clinics, that didn't really appeal to them too much. Another red flag was cookie cutter ads, things that mentioned where ads were all looking the same. Work-life balance, varied caseload. We do all aspects of podiatry. To them, that was a cookie cutter approach and didn't really mean anything to them. They also said if there was positions where there was too much driving, but they said, oh, we've got a couple of clinics that you'll be driving around to. They didn't want to be in and out of cars all the time actually doing that. Another important point that I thought was interesting, when one of them said it wasn't what was in the ad, it was what was not in the ad. And they said they had an opportunity when they put that ad wherever it was to actually tell and say a lot about the business. And some of them would just keep it so basic and exclude a lot of information they thought would probably be important to make the ad more appealing. The next question I asked was just how many interviews did they have? And on average, it was about 3. I think this is important. So when you're interviewing a new employee or potential employee, just remember, you're not the only person that they're having an interview with. They're having multiple interviews. So they're interviewing you as much as you're interviewing them. So just be aware of that. What you're offering on the table is not the only offer. They have other considerations. The next question I thought was really important was, if they rejected certain offers or positions, why did they reject them? And this was the most common thing: lack of mentoring, lack of support, and lack of training. They were right up there on the list. Other things they mentioned was just there was no career development information. Okay, when I start working with you, yes, there's going to be mentoring, but what's going to happen in the future? A couple of them said that they could tell when they were being interviewed that the podiatrist that was interviewing them didn't care about the job, didn't really like podiatry. They weren't excited about what they were doing. And that came across in the interview. And I thought, I don't want to work somewhere where people aren't enjoying what they're doing. Some actually felt that all the podiatrist was really after was a warm body to plonk in a chair to just see patients clip toenails, whatever they were going to do. And they felt really, really disrespected that the person interviewing them didn't ask them what aspects of podiatry do you enjoy most, or ask them anything about their personal life. It was pretty much, we want someone to sit in that chair and just do routine foot care. And that was very unappealing to them. And the last factor that seemed to put them off was really location. Some people did not want to move away from where they grew up or where it was they particularly wanted to live. So even though they may have studied in Brisbane, a few of them may have wanted to live somewhere else, and that was why they chose a particular job. So it wasn't the job wasn't appealing, it's just it wasn't in the right location. When I went on and asked them what made them say yes, though, to the position they decided to take in 2024, a lot of it came back to team culture. That seemed to be really, really important. And I read something recently, and they were talking about team culture in a business. And businesses that have a really, really high team culture have a far lower turnover rate of team members. It was something like 14% compared to 50% in companies that didn't put any time or effort into actually maintaining or having a high team culture. And one of the other things that made them say yes too was when they did the interview, and they may have stayed around for a little bit, or it could have been during a placement, they paid a lot of attention to how the employer interacted with other team members and how they interacted with patients. And they wanted to see that there was this fantastic sort of synergy between the employer, the patients, the patients, and the employer. That's what they were basically looking for. And they thought that was going to be a happier environment, and also, once again, relates to team culture. And one of the final things they mentioned when it was what made them say yes was a very well-structured mentoring process. When you start, this is what we were doing, and they had it mapped out. Now, I know when people used to come and work with me, I had a 3-month plan on how I would train podiatrists in that first 3 months, and I had it all mapped out, and I'd show them exactly what we're doing. I did ask all of them, what aspects of podiatry do you like most? And this was interesting. Nearly all of them said they don't mind all aspects of podiatry, and they understood they have to do all aspects of podiatry. The majority of them actually said they like biomechanics, sports, MSK type patients. And that seems to be a common thread between a lot of new graduates that are coming out. They like the more interesting parts of podiatry. So in your position that you're offering, that has to be highlighted if that's what you do. Now, if you do 95% routine foot care and 5% biomechanical type work, I think you just need to tell people that in the job ad right from the start. So therefore, you'll get people who go, yes, that's what I want to do, and I'm fine with that. You'll attract the person that will sort of match your business a little bit better. And I did ask them a bit of a bonus question towards the end, was money a factor? And it seems to be more of a factor if you're more of a mature age student than if you're a little bit younger. Also, money was a factor depending where you're going to live. If it was in a capital city, they were expected to be paid a little bit more because the cost of living, rent and everything else was going to be a little bit more. But for the majority of them, money was a factor, but it was probably third down the list behind mentoring, the culture of the business, and then money. And few of them actually said they would have taken less money to work in some of the businesses where they eventually chose to work. And this leads me on to something that I wanted to mention, what was called the Goldilocks principle. I did mention this on the podcast. And the Goldilocks principle states that people prefer having that just right amount of something than having too much or too little. And now this relates to income, the salaries. If you're offering too much, it can seem a little bit scary. If you're not offering enough, you can see like, I can do better. So you need to offer that in between. That's what the Goldilocks principle is all about, and how it relates to what new graduates are actually looking for. And there was a survey that I read many years ago. I think it was Stanford University. I can't remember exactly. And at the time, so this is going back over 20 years ago, so the income I'm about to mention may not relate. They placed an ad in a newspaper, and that ad lists everything they were looking for this particular position. Starting salary $40,000, and they had over 200 people apply. They pulled the ad out. 4 weeks later, they placed another ad. Everything was exactly the same. It was an identical ad. The only thing that was different was the starting salary, and it had $200,000. Now, I could ask you, how many people do you think applied? The answer is 4. Only 4 people applied. Identical ad all the way through, over 200 for one ad, but only 4 for the other ad. So they went back and they interviewed people. Why did you not apply for the other position, considering it's exactly the same as the first one you applied for? And most of them thought because the pay was so much, they were looking for someone that had far more skill and experience than what they had. So just keep that in mind. If you're offering too much money, then that can be a massive red flag to everybody. Now, the last thing that I asked everybody on the interviews was just to give me some final thoughts that they can share with employers that may be helpful for them if they missed out this year, that may help them next year. And I've got them all written down here. One of them said, connect with students earlier. Try and connect with the students at the university. And I've mentioned this before about digging the well before you need the water. If you only dig a well when you'll die of thirst before the well's ever dug. It's the same thing if you want to connect with new graduates, is connect with them a lot earlier in the course. Find ways of actually doing it. And there are multiple ways of doing it. The other thing that was really important they said is you need to have an Instagram presence. It is just, you must have Instagram and other social media pages. Let them see what it's like inside your clinic. Let them see the type of patients you're actually treating. The other thing they said is have a good website that represents exactly what you do. Your ad may say this, but does your website say exactly the same thing? Be more specific about mentoring was another thing. And also their career development was really important. They said everybody needs to pay a bit more attention to that. Be transparent and honest, and be more genuine in your ads. Just be upfront with what the job is that you're offering. So when they do the interview, they know exactly what they're in for. And one thing, I thought this really surprised me, where they went and did interviews, and a lot of times the employers never got back to them, just ghosted them afterwards. You got to realize students talk to each other. So they've gone for a job and they've heard nothing back, and somebody else has applied for the same job and they've heard nothing back. It gets around pretty quickly that that's probably not the place where they want to be working. Now, people in their third year will talk to people in their final year and ask them where they're working, and they will share with each other their experiences. So just be aware, if you're not doing a great interview process, you're not getting back to these students, word gets around pretty quick. And it also gets around, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, that if you're turning over staff very quickly all the time, and these ads are always out there every year looking for a new team member, and they know your business isn't growing, it's just a replacement, then that is a red flag for all the students actually coming through. And this is the last comment I want to finish on, and this was something that one of them actually said, and it's something that I've always said, is you need to build the practice around the things that you love doing in podiatry, and you will attract the podiatrists that love doing the same thing. And in fact, they will hunt you down if your practice is exactly what they were looking for. And a few of them told me that's exactly how they got their job. They saw an ad, they investigated that clinic, and they hunted that person down. Some of them even said that the person or the podiatrist didn't even have an ad, but they knew that's where they wanted to work, and they hunted them down for 12 months saying that I want to come and work with you when I graduate at the end of the year. And they got the job. So I think that's really important. That's all I wanted to talk about in this. I hope you get something from this. I hope this helps you next year looking for somebody. Especially if you missed out this year, really think about how you're structuring your ads. And if you need any help with this, please reach out to me. This is part of the coaching that I do with podiatry business owners. A lot of the people that I work with have not had problems finding staff members. They find staff. A few of them, yeah, they live in areas that it's a little bit more difficult. But if you're not putting the best ad out there and representing your clinic the best way, you're always going to find it difficult. I hope you get something from that. Like I said, if you want to reach out to me, my email address is tf@tysonfranklin.com, or go to my website, tysonfranklin.com, and you can check everything out there. If you're enjoying these videos, click the subscribe button so you don't miss any, and I'll talk to you next week. Okay, bye.